you guys hear me?
Hear you crystal clear.
Perfect.
How's it going, Kirk? I think you might be on mute.
There's the button.
There you go.
Hello, hello.
Hi there.
I see who's here. All right, good. Looks like we got to meet Derek and Colin maybe here today. Cool.
What's going on, guys? Hey, everybody.
So what, I said we wait a couple minutes, then we start? 11:05? Kirk, did you want to kind of guide this meeting, or would you prefer me trying to do it this time around?
I had assumed somebody else was facilitating this call.
Yep, that's what the assumption that I had as well. I just wanted to make sure that you were okay with that, because I would be happy if you wanted to facilitate as well.
Oh, very kind of you. Thank you. Yeah, happy to help sometimes, but I think it's actually good that we rotate that kind of thing. And I'm certainly not in a position to be a regular facilitator for y'all. I almost ended up with an interruption that I couldn't have even made it today. So I'm glad you're on it.
Awesome.
I took notes last time. Does anyone want to take a stab at taking notes this time? If not, I can. I'm more than happy to take notes. So.
I would take notes, but I'm gonna have to be focused on the scheduling stuff.
Yeah, I can do it this time. No problem.
I saw that Colin made a chat. Is there a chat room, or is it only on-screen pop-up?
You can share the link, I'm pretty sure.
No, I mean, oh, I found it. Okay, there's an icon for. I don't use Meetup or Google Meet. I just found the chat.
The chat box. Little
Yes,
thing.
yes.
It's right next to the people.
Got it.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. I apologize beforehand that I might not be as efficient as Kirk. If I'm half as efficient, then I'll be very, very happy. So let's start off. What I did for organizational purposes, I started with an agenda. And if you look at the Google Calendar event, you can see the agenda. The last agenda item is other items, because I'm sure I missed certain topics that people are going to want to talk about. But what I suggest is we just go through that agenda and kind of update everyone on what we've been working on. So the first agenda item, is everyone okay with that so far? Sweet. I'll take silence as an affirmative. The first agenda item is reporting on the mission statement. And what I'd recommend people do now is, if they go to the mission statement channel for within our Discord, the Ethereum Due Diligence Project Discord, you'll see that quite a few people made suggestions about the mission statement in particular. So there's about 3 or 4, because the 4th one's kind of built on top of, it was just an edited version of the others. And, do you guys want to read these mission statements now and then discuss them? Do you want me to read them out loud? And then we can talk about them from there? How would you like to proceed?
Reading them out loud would be good, and then we can walk through them.
Awesome. So I'll read them out loud, and I'm going to number them. So number 1, the mission of the Ethereum Due Diligence Committee is to increase the reliability of the Ethereum staking ecosystem. It does that by professionally researching the different actors in the space and making them go through a standardized process of scrutiny and then publishing the results. So that was number 1. Number 2, the mission of the Ethereum Due Diligence Committee is to fairly and impartially evaluate services in the Ethereum ecosystem to ensure to the best of our abilities that they are safe for the community at large to use. Then we're going to go to number 3. The Ethereum Due Diligence Project aims to be a trustworthy and above all impartial source of information about the characteristics and security of services in the Ethereum staking ecosystem. And then number 4, which is similar to number 3, the Ethereum Due Diligence Project aims to build a trustworthy and above all impartial source of information about the characteristics and security of services in the Ethereum staking ecosystem. So it would be great if we could either decide on a mission statement now or at least come up with a framework upon deciding the mission statement. But I think we could probably just hash it out now.
I like
Are
the
those
one
just-
that Kirk posted most recently.
So that would be number 4, is that correct? The Ethereum.
Yeah, I put it in the chat.
Perfect.
Is there any place in the Discord that these are already posted?
That's right. So if you go to the mission channel within the Ethereum Due Diligence Discord, you will find, you'll see the first 2 right away, top one, second one, and then you'll have to scroll a little bit further down to see the last 2.
Okay, got him.
Although with the one Kirk posted, maybe take the staking ecosystem out of it, just Ethereum ecosystem. So we're
I
not,
agree.
I mean, that'll come, down the road that we start looking at not the staking ecosystem, but hopefully one day.
And I have no problem with that either. I think in my case, I only changed one word from number 3, which is Yorick, because I wanted to emphasize that the committee is building something. The committee is not the source. That was the minor distinction I made in number 4. Otherwise, number 4 and number 3 were identical, and I accept the change that somebody just offered. I think that's great.
Awesome. So there's already a consensus starting to emerge within the chat. So now that enough people have supported number 4, just if you're okay or pleased with number 4 as an option, could you just raise your hand right now?
I like number 4, but I do have a suggestion that I think we could trim it just a little bit. Could we just get rid of above all? What would people think about that if it just says aims to build a trustworthy and impartial source of information?
I agree. Do other people agree?
Good with me.
Awesome. So with that, it looks like we've decided upon number 4 as the mission statement for the Ethereum Due Diligence Committee, with the changes of removing above all and also changing from Ethereum staking ecosystem to Ethereum ecosystem. Very nice. Very nice. All right, so I'm going to hand this off to, I can't remember who volunteered to facilitate the scope discussions on the Ethereum Due Diligence Committee channels. I was definitely participating. Kirk, it seems it was you.
No. I had one item on the last one. We just agreed, and somebody I think wanted stake. Good. Lamboshi just edited it. I noticed he put it in with staking still, but he just edited his, so he's got it now. I'll shut up.
I forgot my own suggestion.
Yeah, I knew you made it.
Awesome. So, as I was saying, I think the second portion of the second item on our agenda is a report on the scope discussions. If you're interested in looking at the scope discussions, you can find them within the #scope channel within the Due Diligence Committee Discord. I've been participating in those, but I wasn't one of the ones who volunteered to be a facilitator. It'd be great if someone who was a facilitator for that specific channel could kind of give the group an update on what was being discussed. I'm happy to do it as well, but it's probably better if someone else kind of talks about it.
I think the initial scope right now, what we sort of have maybe agreed on is that we reach out to staking pools with the standardized set of questions that we've all produced and get, hard facts on how, like all those different facts on the pools, and just publish that as like a minimum viable product.
Are we only assessing those who have pooled solutions? Because there are far fewer with pools than those who do like a semi-custodial approach. And I missed the first meeting, so apologize.
Pools and
Yep, Michael's here.
Hey, Michael.
What Jeff just said, it was the first priority of this group because this group just couldn't get to everything, but it was not at all off the radar screen to be doing beyond the pooling solutions. Is that right? If I'm wrong on that, somebody say something.
Yeah,
No, that sounds
that's
about
my
right.
sense.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess just as a little background and a quick introduction, because I missed last week. I'm Carl Myers. I work in Consensus. I primarily work on a project called Activate, and without going too deep into it, but Activate basically is a validator marketplace. So during the creation, right now, today we support 18 different validators, which includes Stake.us and Figment and Stake With Us and Stakefish and all those big guys. And over the course of the past year and a half, I've gotten to know them really well and have begun to already assess their ETH2 solutions like on the side. Which is why I posted that diligence doc that we have, which is tailored towards validators. So I have some like pre-work done, and I guess I've to some degree have already kind of sussed out the semi-custodial options or beacon nodes as a service, or you manage your own withdrawal key and we hold the validator key style approaches. So there's been some work done on that. So that's kind of just the background as into why I was asking, is that those conversations can be easily set up. I've already had them with them multiple times, and I've kind of let all of them know that we're doing this, and they're interested in doing like formal round tables. Most of them aren't pooled solutions. So just wanted to make sure that was relevant to the earlier parts, or get an idea about how we're phasing it out. Are we going to basically go like to each provider and then say, let's break down your different types of solutions? Yes, you say you do pooling. Well, what does that mean? Yes, you say you do beacon nodes as a service, but what exactly does that mean? Or are we going to we're going to talk to everyone who's doing under 32 ETH, and then we're going to talk to the providers that are doing increments of 32 ETH. Just kind of questioning about structure. Is a lot of this research in some areas has already been completed. So just trying to make it efficient.
So I think part of that question is, do we want to redo this research ourselves and ask all these questions ourselves, or should we rely on the research that's already been done by other organizations for these parties? Is that correct?
No, I'm proposing to completely repeat it, right?
Okay.
Most of them don't have pooled solutions. So again, my question was, are we only talking about pooling here, or, or have we not even architected the research study? Because usually when we do these research studies, you architect it first, and then you walk through kind of what questions are you asking, and then you characterize it. So just wanted to get clear that the design of the research study was to do pooling or under 32 ETH only, and then from there I can figure out how to best add value to that.
So my suggestion, and I'm open to what other people think, is that we do exclusively focus on the less than 32 ETH, and for the first round, obviously we can expand past that once that's set up. And my reasoning on that is that these are the people who are most vulnerable, have the fewest current options. They don't have the alternative of solo staking, for example, which is like an obvious, if done properly, secure alternative to almost all of the other greater than 32 ETH solutions. And so it's in that sense, it's kind of like the most valuable intervention that we can make, especially taking into account, like, I would argue that like the maximum decentralization that you get out of something like staking is at the lowest end. If you have the more you can move the minimum bar down, the more decentralized the solution you're going to get. And I think the primary challenge right now in getting into staking is that lower end. So that's my pitch for the lower end, the sub 32 ETH.
And that's fine. I'm just glad that we're able to be here.
I think if part of the mission is to protect, which it really should be at this point, I mean, what we're going to see is, we helped out with the ETH2 Launchpad, and during one of the design philosophies and build behind that, and the intention of it was to protect. It was to formalize and guide, but it was to also protect scammers and phishers, and putting something out there to protect people. So if the intention is to protect first and foremost, at least for phase 0, which I think the big thing is there's going to be tons of people popping up saying, we do this, we have this solution. Is there really any technology behind it? And what is it going on? So I think, yeah, if we're going to protect people, then those who need the most protection are those with under 32 ETH. That's for sure. I agree with that.
Do other people agree with this, that we focus on people sub 32? Awesome. So I think that's the key kind of for our scope. That's where we initially start. If we exhaust that, we can expand from there. But that's definitely the most important target group for now. Awesome. So give me 2 seconds. Now, does anyone have anything else they would like to discuss regarding scope or within that category?
Is our output intention to give some type of subjective opinion around safety, or is our plan to create an objective final list, and basically say this final objective list was created subjectively? These are the people that we think you should trust, or are we going to be very, very subjective? I guess I have a questioning of subjectiveness versus objectiveness, right? And kind of what type of message are we trying to give? Is it hey, here's a final list of things that we've sussed out and some characterizations of their offering? Or is it here's these people, they're really, really bad, stay away from them. Here's these people, they're really, really good. I'm kind of curious about the intention of the delivery and how we make it the combination of subjective and objective.
My proposal was to first put out the objective list and just present the users with the facts and nothing else. And then once we have that done, at that point, we can move into the subjective and start discussing each of them individually.
Cool.
Also, we are 10 people in the group. It's highly unlikely that we come up to consensus about subjective stuff.
True. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Another point, it's, right now, this is a committee that's clearly more top down purely for the sake of time regarding all the activity that's going on with staking. Over time, we'd like to come up with something that's a little bit more decentralized, a little bit more, let's say, grassroots driven. And when it's going to be more grassroots driven, we can probably include, we will have to include the greater variety of how to present subjective opinions or subjective perspectives on these solutions.
I think another factor here is just we do have to give some kind of indication to the user of just where the bar is at, and I think my estimation, and I don't know if this is everyone else's estimation, is that initially the situation will not be great. We do not yet have the ability to set contracts and control of withdrawals. And that seems like a pretty critical security requirement for a even moderately trustless solution. And so all of the sub 32 ETH solutions that exist right now are either, one person holds one key, the other person holds the other key, or some type of key splitting, which are going to rely pretty heavily on some trust assumptions. So yes, evaluating the exact trustworthiness of a party is a very subjective thing, but I think it's relatively objective to just state that the trust assumption exists.
Yes.
And I think we're going to want to be clear in the presentation that the current status is not anywhere near the low trust goal that we would like to see eventually. So, like if we think about like the green light, yellow light, red light stuff that we had talked about, I would almost say it seems almost a foregone conclusion to me that nothing will initially have a green light, right? Like at this stage, there's no technology to provide green lights. Maybe if somebody's kind of done the best they can possibly do with the current thing, then that's like a yellow light type situation. But that's kind of how I think of the framing on this.
Awesome. Does anyone have anything else to say regarding scope for now? Or should we move on to the next topic? The next topic actually is an update on top level domain. So who is facilitating the conversation in that channel? It'd be great if you could report on the updates.
Michael?
I'm happy to.
I was just going to say that I know he has a concurrent work call and he may not be available. So it might be a good idea to switch the order a little bit and get back to that when he's available, if he becomes available during this call.
That's a great idea. So let's just move on. We'll come back to it, and if Michael arrives, we'll have him go over it. And if not, I participate in some of those conversations so I can summarize it to the best of my ability a little later. So after update on top level domain, we have a report on the staking pool evaluation framework. So Limboski, I think you were participating in those conversations. I think a couple of the others were facilitating as well regarding evaluation framework.
Yeah.
And if we could just get an update for the group on what was discussed this past week and how we're thinking about this evaluation framework. We even hinted at it already with our, red light, green light, yellow light system. But and I know you posted some questions or that we should ask each staking group.
Yeah, so on the staking pool evaluation channel, I pinned 2 messages. The first is what we've come up with for the standardized set of questions, and the second is a list of staking services that I've compiled. The idea was that we all volunteer to take on, 1, 2, 3 of these pools, reach out to them, get a response, and then we can just post these answers verbatim on our website. And at least then users have a centralized location that they can go to and get the facts on what the pools are, how they work, what risks they take, etc.
Awesome. I think that makes a lot of sense.
One thing to think about with the idea of just kind of like posting those answers verbatim is that unfortunately a lot of users will take even the existence of a site's answers on a given site as an endorsement of a kind. So I don't know how we want to anticipate and head that off.
Okay, hopefully if we can get, if we can get pretty much something like every staking as a service company around, and there are a lot of them, but I don't know, we've got 20 some odd people in the group, so that's a lot of manpower, so to speak. I think if we can get nearly every staking as a service company on the site, then that sort of cancels that out.
Well, if the initial, the first step is going to be the sub 32 category, I'm not sure it's going to be a very long list.
Right. And I'm saying we've got 20 people to work on this. I think we can actually increase the scope beyond just the pooled.
Good with that.
All we're doing
Till
is
when?
just reaching out, asking questions, getting reply. I don't think it's too much work for us.
I'm definitely in favor of collecting the information, and I'm not saying that I'm concerned it's going to be too much work. I'm just about dumping it all into the brand.
So,
Yeah, and can you do me a huge favor? Would you mind muting? I think someone's typing a lot, and it's hard to hear Jeff. And Jeff, you also went in and out for a little bit there. So could you just repeat
You need to mute.
I was under the impression that my mic was off. But I can mute also. Sorry.
Sorry, we'll try that again. I don't know if I'm coming through clearly now, but
You sound good.
okay. So basically, what I was saying is just that I think the collection of that information is great, and there's absolutely no reason to wait on going ahead and collecting it. Like we can definitely start collecting all that information for sure. I'm just a little bit hesitant about dumping all that on a page that's connected with the kind of the project brand, just because the presence on that page will be seen as a sort of endorsement. So for example, if you're going to that page and you see like there's 2 sub 32 ETH things listed, then a whole bunch of staking services listed, even that is a little bit of an implicit statement or an implicit endorsement of staking services versus pooled services, for example.
do you think that could be mitigated just with some like warning signs?
Yeah. So one solution that comes to my mind is we have disclaimers, making it very clear. And then we not only do we have disclaimers saying this is by no means an endorsement, we're just listing them here. We can walk through, our approach for why they're listed here. And we can even say, just because something isn't listed here doesn't mean it won't be listed here, because we just might not have had the time yet to go through and ask them and get their answers, for example. So being very transparent about the process, I think would do a really good job of helping people realize, oh, this is by no means an endorsement. It's just purely a time thing.
Yeah, if you want to be inclusive too, you could make a way to have any sort of service or organization easily contact somebody. So if they want to be included in that master list someone suggested, they could be. It's just a way to be inclusive.
That's a great idea.
I think transparency definitely helps. I think another thing that can help is pre-digesting some of the information. So like one of the differences that I see between just posting the answers as they're given and turning them into a very kind of like compact table, for example, that would just say yes or no for each property. That doesn't really let people argue their case so much as it just says, yes, it has this property, or no, it doesn't have this property, or it's at least claimed to have this property. That does make it a little bit less of a sort of an advertisement for companies. I think the more that you let people write, the more it's kind of seen as an endorsement of that company, as it's kind of like giving them airtime.
So far, can you just repeat that last point, Jeff, real quick?
I think that digesting the information into like a table is kind of like more objective and seen less as an endorsement. Whereas if you literally paste what the parties have replied, it's like giving them airtime, and that's kind of almost an advertisement or an implicit endorsement.
Awesome. And so the solutions that we have to this problem of endorsement that have been proposed so far is put that information into table form rather than allow it to be in narrative form via the answers of those entities. Number two, have a contact button saying, you're not listed here, would love for you to be listed, or, you contact us if you'd like to be listed. And then number three, being very transparent about having a disclaimer saying, hey, this is by no means an endorsement of these services. And if a service isn't listed here, it's most likely due to the fact that we just haven't gotten time to speak with them. So those are the three kind of core tenets I've heard so far. Would everyone agree with that?
Yeah, that seems right.
Speaking into mute, yes, seems good.
Awesome. So, does anyone else have other topics they'd like to discuss regarding the staking pool evaluation framework? All right. Take silence as a negative, and so we'll move on to the next topic, the EDDC long-term. This is more of an open-ended subject a little bit. I think a lot of this came from the fact how we discussed last time that while we're relatively top-down right now, we'd love to eventually move to a more bottoms-up kind of grassroots framework, and wanting to discuss long-term, how do we see this group evolving? We also made a channel about this called the EDDC long-term within our Discord, where you can see the conversation. And maybe Kirk, you might want to talk about this in particular.
Yeah,
You've been very active.
It's okay. I'd like to have a couple minutes, but I also will say we're not going to get any of this resolved today, but I'd like to talk what happened on that channel and how it came about. I appreciate Madison's comments that we may have already decided to go that way, and I don't think we really did. When I facilitated last week, the way I understood it, and like I said, I appreciate Madison kind of saying what he said because it is my position, but I think what we decided was that we had to get something out there to help this community right away, and then that was going to necessarily force us to be in a mode that was more like we are some of the smartest people in the room. We're not all, but some of them, and we ought to help and provide the community this. And there was a strong consensus that we had to do that first. And I just requested that we not cut off the idea that we might not be more bottom-up long-term. And I think it's a discussion that we need to have. So my short bit for this would be that I think that channel is a good place to discuss it. And I would suggest the following framework. I've put a bunch of stuff in there suggesting that I think we have a problem if we don't make some changes long term. And I suggested that we talk first about the problem, see if we have consensus on that. And most of you haven't weighed in yet, so that's fine. Number two, which would be a week or two later, we begin to talk about solutions, and we all have them. I've already put some out. I didn't do it in this channel. somebody else did in this channel. I think Yorick might have, and I said, yeah, but let's do the problem first. So I'm going to suggest that if I could ask with a please, if you have any possible interest in how this things goes long term and whether we're robust and effective in the long term, please come in and engage with the ideas of that channel, which again, my suggestion is the guy who kind of kicked it off and asked Buddha to create that channel for me to say a few things, was that we focus first on what's the problem. Is there a problem? See if we have consensus on that. Then a week or two later, we'll move into solutions that we would propose and eventually, I guess, get consensus and see how the hell we might build something, which is almost a phase 3. So that's my request, is that you all at least give it a read, take a look at it, add some thoughts about the problem first. And if we get consensus on that, we'd go elsewhere. And that keeps my part of this meeting very short, I hope in under 4 minutes. But if anybody has something to say about that needs to happen in this meeting, by all means do it. But my invitation is to go over to that channel and engage the conversation if you haven't.
Yeah, and thank you for correcting me, Kirk. You're right. There was not a consensus on this. We did discuss it. The people who were vocal seemed to be on one side, but there's by no means a consensus, and I apologize if I let that be the case.
It was great.
So
that's good. We can close that one off, Madison, and just say it. To me, it clearly is not the top priority for the next 2 or 3 weeks for us. But I think keeping it moving philosophically and is a good thing. So if each of you would sometime in the next few days spend 5 or 10 minutes in there and give a comment, that would be helpful.
All right, awesome. The last topic. Well, I guess we can go over top level domain real quick. Because it looks like Michael might not be able to make it. But Michael's done a lot of work. I don't know if you guys have checked out even the website that he's created. It looks terrific. He got the coming soon page. It's ETHDDC.org, ETHDueDiligenceCommittee.org. You can find that link in the top level domain. Once again, Michael really did the heavy lifting on getting this website up. So I'm sure he very much appreciate if you could show your appreciation for him getting it up. There was a little bit of discussion regarding if we needed to change it because we're thinking about changing the name. But it looks like we were okay at the end of the day with keeping it as the Due Diligence Committee rather than the Due Diligence Project, which means we didn't have to change the domain name. That's how I would summarize the conversation in the past week in that channel. If anyone wants to correct me or have different input, please feel free to do so.
There's just a couple things I'd chime in to add to that. We talked a little bit in that channel about hosting on IPFS versus like regular web hosting. And I think the people present and Michael doing the work had the consensus that like we want to get the traditional domain set up and then hopefully host something static on IPFS at some point. So just in like maintaining the possibility for that, I went ahead and grabbed the EDDC.ETH ENS name. If we really want to commit at some point, we can grab DDC.ETH. That's a little more expensive, but for now, I've got EDDC in case we want that.
Awesome. Anything else that people want to discuss regarding top level domain?
Just a thought for Michael. I love what he put together so fast. He had that done in minutes, it seemed like. But I was just going to suggest that with us having our second committee meeting and with us just forming some consensus on both scope, mission, and particularly how staking pools is going to get the quick action, it just occurs to me that this would be a good week, even early in the week, once that gets boiled down and into statements that he can use, to be possibly something where it puts a little more information about what's coming soon, as opposed to just coming soon. It actually states that what's really coming soon is what this committee just formed a consensus on, which I think is some help on staking pools with staking services to follow later. Anyway, I think that's worth doing. It'd be interesting to hear others say whether they think yay or nay, and then somebody's got to communicate that to Michael. But if we like that, or maybe even those of you in charge of the different committees need to get the right wording done, because it's not really that clear in the scope. Some of the different things are not all clear in final words necessarily. I think we got mission in final words, but so that's my thought.
Sounds good.
Still muted, super.
I was double muted. So I'll be happy to convey that to Michael. I hope that his recording of this video is coming through, but I can't guarantee that because he had to step away. But yeah, I'll be glad to convey that. And I also think it would be a good place to link to the playlist for these videos so that someone who sees the top level information but also wants to dig a little deeper can see exactly where we are, if you all think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Keep it in one place. People can find it easily.
Yeah.
Good.
Awesome. So last items, other items, anything else that people want to bring up? Does everyone understand kind of what we're going to work on the next week? Should we talk about what we're going to work on for this following week, what we're going to try to get done, or other topics that people want to talk about?
I could do with the next steps, please.
Yeah, I agree. So why don't we go, the same way that we went down and discuss committee by committee. We go down and we talk about what these committees are really focused on for the next week. So, mission statement, it's great that, I'll talk a little bit about that. I think it's great that we just finalized our mission statement. I think one thing that we can do, building off of what Kirk suggested, is we actually put the mission statement. That's one of the first things I think people should read when they learn about the Ethereum Due Diligence Committee on the website. Do people agree with that?
It's actually there. It's actually there, but in a different form. So it just needs to be updated. It's in the About flyout.
Gotcha. So we work on updating that for the website. And I think that's, that can be done for the mission statement, and then that issue is effectively closed. Do people agree with that? Awesome. So let's move on to scope. What do you guys think should be the focus of scope for next week?
I guess just getting responses to those questions, getting that posted to the site, and from there we can start doing some subjective analysis of it. So maybe, throughout this week we can get that list that I posted in the Discord channel, answers from all those companies or most of them, posted on the website. And that would be our deliverable for the end of the week.
Awesome. So for those, this is also talking to myself, who volunteered to reach out to those services, definitely follow through and do that. Or if you have already done it, relay the responses to the scope channel.
Can I make the suggestion that we add a step in there instead of just going straight to the site? First step will be put together something that could go on the site so that everybody can kind of see it and be like, hey, that's good. And then if we're all like, hey, that's good, then we can put that up on the site.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to say what Jeff just said. I think that's really needed. And the other thing I got slightly confused on is we were talking about scope, and then we ended up talking about the criteria and the actual measurement. What I was going to say is scope is more a statement, isn't it? And it's what Jeff just said. We want to get it fleshed out and finalized in that written channel, I think. I think that could happen today. It could happen a couple hours from now, or it could happen with another revision where we're all looking at it. But it could happen pretty fast, and then that's what goes out, those written words. And that's a little different than from what Nolan was saying about those of you doing the work, and Madison was saying about doing the work and making the calls. I don't think making the calls and doing the work is really scope. Scope is about us setting what the scope of our committee is. doing the work has to be called something else, and I don't know what the.
No, thank you for correcting me. I jumped the gun and went on to the next topic, which is really the report and the evaluation framework versus the scope. But you guys are exactly right that I think similar to the mission statement, I think that should just be a sentence or what we decided with it today, and that be added on the website to say this is the scope of this project. Does everyone agree with that?
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's
Awesome. So top level domain, I think that's just honestly updating with the information such as the mission statement and scope that we have now. And then Limboshi and I think correctly, we're kind of talking about answering those questions that we created, getting those answers from the staking pools, and then posting those answers within the Discord so people can see and be updated. What do you think about that, Limboshi?
Yeah, it's good. I think we need to, get this show on the road, basically.
Right.
Yep.
So scope, I think we can knock out today, right? We talked earlier about it. It's about Ethereum staking with less than 32 ETH. That's initial scope. If the pool evaluation criteria are solid, and it sounded like they are, then yeah, we can get into staking pool evaluation.
I agree, Yorick, and I think the idea that it's initial is good to make explicit.
Yeah, and I think in the wording right now it is initial focus, yes.
Awesome. I agree there. We just need to make sure, obviously, that Michael knows about the wording so he can work on putting it up.
I think Michael might be here. Who's ETH staker? Just joined.
Yeah, I just got back. Sorry, guys. I'm here now.
No problem. Yeah, we were commending your work earlier, by the way, on the landing page of the website.
Great.
We got a couple quick things. We came up with the mission statement. We locked down the wording on that. Would be great if we could update that wording on the website. And then we just locked down. Did someone post it by any chance? The wording for scope?
I'm trying to throw something together there.
Perfect. And we're locking down the wording for scope. Basically, we're going to be focused on Ethereum staking with less than 32 ETH, because those are probably the most kind of vulnerable population. And so therefore, we're going to also, in addition to having a mission statement, we're going to have a scope effective statement on the website saying this is our scope of the project.
Okay.
Just posted something there.
Great. Got it.
That's good. I love that. Yep.
Agreed. Does anyone want to change? You guys should go and look at the scope channel right now. I personally like what Jeff came up with, but if anyone else has a differing line or doesn't think that would be the right wording to put on the website, feel free to chime in now or post in the Discord.
I guess the only kind of question that I have on this, as I phrased it, is related to that earlier question we had of kind of the implicit endorsement of being on the site, which is I think a good test case to think about here is, okay, so there's a project that is an outright scam. We 100% know it's a scam. Do we still list it? Do we just list it with X's in all the categories? Or do we want to have some type of flat cutoff criteria that says, for this reason, this will not even be on the site? Because if so, we should probably slightly tweak that comprehensive property.
That's a good question. I think also the question is, if we know something is a scam, do we list it under do not trust?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a scam, it's kind of our duty to tell everyone that it's a scam to some degree, or at least highlight that in red. And yeah, it could be correct simply as these are the providers that we ended up not trusting, and these are the reasons why. But yeah, they should, if something's fraudulent, that's probably the best case is to list it so everyone knows.
Right.
I think it's very important, and Colin mentioned this, is to say it's not really just called a scam. We have to describe what's actually wrong with the project and like why we think it's fraudulent,
Right.
or why are they misrepresenting, why, could there be technical issues? Do you not want to work with them and deposit with them because they could take the ETH? It's like that sort of, we have to really outline that component.
And since that gets to be subjective, I'm sure we're going to have discussions about that, and that gets into Kirk's longer term. How do we come to consensus on these things? So, for example, if it is there's a higher third-party risk here, that might not rise to do not trust. It just means there's a higher third-party risk. Be aware, right? But if it is, no, this whole thing looks completely like they're just going to take your ETH and run, then that's a whole different story.
Well, and even worse in my mind, because in some sense that's easy to just be like, oh, well, this is a scam. You don't even feel bad about it. Even worse is what if you look at all the evidence and you're 50-50 on it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take that on a case-by-case basis, I think. We have an idea that we want to do something, but it's hard to say in the abstract what that's going to be.
One of the things that's interesting about this is we're not going to have historical evidence of scams. Scams are going to be when an otherwise appearingly trustworthy collector collects and collects and collects, and when they get done, they're going to disappear. And it's not as if, and that'll be very public and it'll be very big. So we're not going to really know in advance if they're not trustworthy. We'll only have a very big indication afterwards that we should not have trusted them. So calling something a scam is almost too late because they've already left with funds and they're probably not doing business anymore.
I think that's definitely a scenario. I think there's another scenario too, which is that if we're literally just dumping everything in the list, someone will just dump a scam link in the list. So the process by which we decide will kind of determine like what types of scams we need to watch out for.
So I think the big question, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong here, is do we list everything that comes our way, or do we even apply an initial filter and not list things that we view as scams right away?
Well, if our mission statement is to be trustworthy and impartial, right, we have a necessary tension between those two words, and that's okay, that's allowed. So we need to do some filtering or we're not trustworthy. If we filter too hard, we're not impartial.
Yeah, I think one strategy in there is to have some sort of delaying and qualifying tactics when people contact us. So if someone contacts us and they haven't really proven that there's anything substantive to the project yet, you don't have to call the person a scam. You can say, "Oh, okay. It looks like we need a little more detail from your project." And if you kind of give that feedback, like basically think of it like you get a phishing phone call or something, and you say, "Oh, well, I need a little more detail about your project before I'm going to give you any personal information." And if they just disappear at that point, then that's on them, and you haven't even had to call them a scam.
Right. I like your child dispenser in the background, by the way, Super. That was pretty cool.
I wasn't aware of it. Sorry. Thank you.
All good.
I agree with what Jeff was saying. What do people think? Yep.
Yeah.
So
I'll say two things. I really agree with what Jeff said, but secondly, it's a privilege to work with a number of you who are bringing such good stuff to this spirit. And I mean, we're a big community, but we're a smaller subset of that. And it's just a privilege to work with people who have the kinds of concerns that Jeff and Yorick and Superfizz and all of you that I'm talking to Colin have already been bringing to this about what we want to do. Because in a way, when the community is healthy, then the competitors, even at the institutional level, where Colin and Jim McDonald work, or et cetera, can all do better. We're helping identify the scam. So it's just a privilege to work with you.
Awesome. We got 4 minutes to spare. Fun facts. What do people want to do here?
I'm gonna jump off, everyone, so I can eat before my next one. Thanks everyone for setting this up. Happy I was able to participate this week, and I'll start getting some calls on my side set up with some people, and I'll start dropping some info into the channel. So appreciate it, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.
Colin, thanks for joining the Parker
Thanks, Colin.
Glad you did
Thank
that.
you.
Cheers, guys.
Hey, I'd like to thank both of our hosts, you guys. So Kirk, you did an awesome job last week, and Madison, it was awesome to see your skills in play. So I'm happy and proud and excited that I know with the leadership you guys are showing that I know you can put the skills in the right place. So I'm really excited about the future of this thing.
Okay, I'm out as well. Thank you, guys. And
Have a good one, guys.
seconded. Thanks for running with this.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, thanks, everybody.